Okay, well, welcome to School Closed, How to Support Students with Learning Differences online with Bookshare. Thanks so much for taking time out to be with us today. We're looking forward to sharing with you some great tips and strategies and, of course, a lot of wonderful information about Bookshare. I am Christine Jones. I'm the Associate Director of Global Literacy at Benetech. And joining me today are two of my very good friends, Scott and Amy, and I'm going to let them both introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what's going on in their necks of the woods. Scott, why don't you start?
Hi everyone, I'm Scott Richards and I'm an occupational therapist. I work as an AT consultant for the school district and we're out until May 4th. Currently that's the official word, but we'll see if that changes as time goes on.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Amy?
Hi everyone, I'm Amy Radicek. I am a licensed speech-language pathologist and assistive technology professional who works in a suburban school district right outside of the Queen City of Buffalo, New York. We keep getting weekly updates as far as getting pushed out, but it looks like at this point we're going to be out till late April, and the June Regents exams have already been canceled. So I would expect a much lengthier time out than was previously scheduled. But we're hanging in there, and as I'm sure everyone else is. Nice to meet everyone.
Great. Thank you both. So I'm going to go through our very aspirational agenda, and we're hoping to cover all of this today. We're going to cover some basics about Bookshare, what it is, how it helps students, who qualifies, how schools sign up, how educators add other teachers to their accounts, how they assign books. That's going to be Scott. He's going to cover all of that. And then Amy will come on and will show us how students access and read their assigned books. And all of that is pertaining to an organizational account. I'll talk also about how parents can sign up their child either through the school, not through the school, just on their own, or they can work with the school to get their student added to a school account and then upgrade it to a full individual membership very easily with just a few clicks. So pretty easy process. And I'll cover some help resources that are available on the website and the Learn at Home resources page that I mentioned, including a whole section of books for students who don't qualify for Bookshare but are looking for things to read. So we'll go through that, and we'll talk a little bit about upcoming webinars. So with that, let me get into some basics here. So I wanted to cover, for any of you who don't know, Bookshare is an ebook library that makes reading easier. And basically people with reading barriers to reading printed text, such as dyslexia, blindness, and physical disabilities, can use Bookshare to read in ways that work better for them. That means they can just listen to books read aloud if audio is their preference, or they can also follow along with audio and highlighted text. You'll see on the screen there's an image of a tablet reading a Harry Potter book, and the sentence is highlighted in yellow, and then word by word is highlighted in green, so students can follow along with the highlighted text. Studies have shown that this method of reading significantly improves reading comprehension, engagement, attention span, especially for students with reading disabilities, learning disabilities. So every single book in Bookshare can be read that way, depending, of course, on the tool that you're using to read. Students can also read just in large type if they just need it enlarged, and they can also output Braille to Braille, output all Bookshare books to Braille, either hard copy Braille using a Braille embosser, or they can read on a Braille device. So all of the books can be read that way as well. Bookshare currently has more than 825,000 titles, and all of these are available in multiple formats, including audio plus highlighted text, as I mentioned earlier. So the collection is very vast and includes a lot of wonderful books for every purpose, pretty much. There are lots of how-to books. In fact, one of the lists that is available to anyone, not just Bookshare members, of basically public domain books, is of upskilling books to learn new skills. And for example, we actually have the study guides for the driving test for all 50 states available in Bookshare. So if a student with a learning disability wanted to listen to the book, to that text read out loud, in addition to following it on the screen, they can download it from Bookshare and practice for taking their driving test. So that's just one example of many types of how-to books and upskilling books the collection contains. We also have a wide range of all the bestsellers, fiction and nonfiction, periodicals, newspapers and magazines, and then obviously lots of books for school, both textbooks and assigned books and everything. We're hoping that kids are reading for leisure as well. We're hoping that reading is an activity that that they're choosing to undertake at this point. You know, if we're looking for something to do, reading is a great option for them. Best of all, Bookshare is free for all qualified U.S. students of any age, thanks to funding that we receive from the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Special Education Programs. So that means the schools that serve these students can also sign up for free. And then if anyone has a qualifying condition but isn't a student of any age, they've finished with school, they can pay $50 a year for an unlimited amount of downloads. So you can download as many books as they want for that $50 a year, pretty good deal. And Bookshare offers customized reading on nearly any device. Students can select, depending on the tool, they can select different voices, different color schemes, spacing options, fonts, speed, lots of ways to customize the reading for them. I mentioned there are lots of ways to read, so there's an option for pretty much every device, Chromebooks and computers. We offer a free tool called Bookshare Web Reader, which can also be enhanced with 2 Chrome extensions that we highly recommend. Text Help's Read and Write for Google Chrome, or Don Johnston's Snap and Read. These are both Chrome extensions that work really well with Bookshare Web Reader and add some more functionality to it, as well as a tool called CaptiVoice. That's captivoice.com. They have they have a free version as well as a paid version. And then every single book in Bookshare can be downloaded as a Microsoft Word document and then read in Microsoft Word. And when you get these slides afterward, you'll get the links, like this link here is a link to instructions for downloading and reading books in Word. And then reading on tablets is really easy as well, both the iPad and the iPhone, as well as Android tablets and Android phones through several apps. One that we highly recommend that's free called Dolphin Easy Reader. It integrates directly with Bookshare and allows members to log into Bookshare right within the app and find their books and download them and read them. It's very simple to use and offers a lot of great customization options. And CaptiVoice is another wonderful app, and it's available for iOS devices. And Voice Dream Reader is a well-loved app that many of our members use to read Bookshare books, and it also reads other content as well, can connect to Google Drive and many other sources, so it's a valuable tool to have as well. It's also available for Android. So those are just some of the ways to read Bookshare books. Bookshare offers 2 account types. One is an organizational account where teachers, whom we call sponsors, add students whom we call members, and then assign books to them. Then students log in, find their books and read. Students are logging in at that point to the school account, so they're given a username and password. And Scott's going to demonstrate that, and then they can log into books to their account, to their Bookshare account, and they can access any books that have been shared with them by their teachers. So either assigned to them individually, downloaded for them, or shared on a reading list. When a student is ready to start finding books on their own, we really recommend that they get the individual membership. And there's actually a really easy way that parents can help students get that membership, upgrade to a full individual membership, and we're going to walk through that process. Once students are on a school account and have a student log into the school account, they can easily upgrade to a full individual membership. And this allows them then to search for and find and open pretty much any book in the collection. Also, parents can sign up for Bookshare just separate, apart from the school, just on their own. However, this method requires that parents submit a proof of disability form, which has to be signed by what the law calls a competent authority, someone who can indicate that, yes, this person has a qualifying condition. And so that particular process takes, one extra step, and that's why we recommend that teachers put kids on school accounts first, and then parents can help them upgrade from there. And then when they have an individual membership, students log in, search for books, and read. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to go through qualifications now. This is obviously always a big topic of with a lot of questions. And I want to say at the outset that Bookshare qualifications are determined by copyright law, not by education law. So it doesn't necessarily use terms that you all use day to day in terms of how you classify students. The idea behind this is an exception to copyright law that makes it legal for entities such as Benetech, which is the parent company of Bookshare, to distribute books to people with these conditions, books in accessible formats. So books in different formats to these individuals because they need content in a different way. And these are people who have some kind of what we call a barrier to reading or processing printed text in the way that someone would who had no barriers. So under the recently revised copyright law that defines who can qualify for Bookshare, it says an eligible person is one who is blind or has a visual impairment or perceptual or reading disability, rendering them unable to read printed works to substantially the same degree as a person without an impairment or disability, or is otherwise unable through physical disability to hold or manipulate a book or to focus or move the eyes to the extent that would be normally acceptable for reading. And I should also mention that this copyright exception was written, it's actually part of an international treaty called the Marrakesh Treaty, to which the United States signed on about a year ago. And in anticipation of signing on to that treaty, the United States revised its own copyright exception that we've been operating under. And the revision is not really tremendously significant in that the categories are basically the same, the types of disabilities that make someone eligible are basically the same, but they did take out some problematic language that we think has left it a little bit more clear than it was before. However, it was written by an international body of people, so some of the language is not exactly the way we would say it sometimes. But in any case, this is what the law says. It also says that all of that has to be determined by a competent authority possessing experience in making such determinations. So that basically the law is looking here for someone with some background in that area of disability who can say that, yes, this person has a condition that qualifies them for Bookshare. We also have a cross-qualification agreement with Learning Ally so that if anyone signs up with their service, their membership with Learning Ally is a basis for qualification in Bookshare. So I'm sure that there are probably questions about that. We'll try to come back and cover that at the end. But what I've got here is basically the law as it's written, and what we do, we don't make the qualifications decisions on our end on a student-by-student basis. That's really up to you all who work most closely with the students. And so we ask that you review these laws and make your best determination on a student-by-student basis as to whether they meet these criteria. We aren't in a position to make that determination for a particular student, but we know that you can. And overall, I find that teachers are very conscientious people and really go out of their way to make sure they're doing the right thing. So for the most part, we trust that you are going to make the right decision about your students. And we'll come back at the end if there are additional questions. So to get started, teachers would either create an organizational account or log into their organizational account if they already have one. They'll add qualified students, they'll assign books either one at a time or assign collections of books, and Scott is going to go through both of those options for us. And then students can also sign up separately with the help of their parents if they're under 18. They can sign up, then students can log in. They can see their assigned books or reading lists. That's if their individual membership is connected to their school account, which is what we highly recommend. Then they can search for books also. If they have that full individual membership, they can search for any book in the collection, select a book, and read. It's pretty straightforward. We're going to go through some demonstrations really quick, and I'm actually just going to start off by showing how educators sign up for organizational accounts and how parents or students can sign up for individual memberships, and then I'm going to turn it over to Scott, and he's going to go through some other stuff on the teacher side of things. So this is Bookshare.org, and the Learning from Home resources page is called out right here, so I want to call your attention to that right here. And that's a great resource. We'll go over that at the end, but we've got a lot of valuable links there and information. But this is where you can sign up for Bookshare if you don't already have an account. So if you go to this Sign Up Today button here on the right, you'll see it says choose a membership type. So I'm going to start quickly talking about the individual membership, and then I'll jump into the school, since we're going to focus mostly on school memberships from here on out. So an individual membership is what someone would sign up for if they themselves are an individual with a qualifying reading barrier and want to read books, and so they can sign up. And if they're under 18, they would do that with a parent, or the parent can initiate this process as well to sign up their students. So they click the Sign Up Individual box. There is a video tutorial here that indicates how to sign up that you can certainly watch to get the basics. And then you confirm that the person has a qualifying disability, and then whether they're a student or not. We'd like to know what school they're a part of, so we ask you that. There's also a box for this student is homeschooled. So they fill out this information, then they fill out some information about the student. Then they're prompted to print a proof of disability form. And right now we are offering a workaround for that, which we will send some email about, but basically will allow the individual who normally would sign that and send that in to be able to indicate in email that they are providing this proof of disability. So we'll send you some information about that, because we know that not everyone has access to printers right now in their current situation. But so they are prompted to print out that proof of disability form, send that in, and then it takes just a day or so on the back end. We get everything approved, and then the individual can go ahead and start logging in and accessing books. The other type of sign up is the organization sign up. So if we click on sign up organization, and again, if we pick a school, it's going to give us a chance here to select the school. And then there is a place where in the next step, if you select a school that already has a Bookshare account, we're going to let you know that what we can do is work to get you matched, get you onto that account rather than you having to create a new one. And so we've actually brought on some additional resources during this time to help match interested educators with organizational accounts that are already up and running. So just to be assured that if you go through that process, we're going to do everything we can to get you on an account as quickly as possible, and make sure that you can start serving your students. So there's that. And then if your school does not already have an account, you can create a new account. Then you're typically prompted to print an organizational agreement, review it, sign it, and send it in. But we also are offering a workaround for that right now as well, where you can basically send us the blank agreement and you send us a statement, and all of this information is provided to you during the sign-up process. And then you basically are sort of agreeing to the terms in writing without actually printing and signing and turning in the agreement. So that's another workaround that we've put in place during these very unusual times. So that is the sign-up process. And so once a school signs up, they're going to add teachers and add students, and this is where I'm going to turn it over to Scott and let him take over and start sharing his screen and tell us all about signing up, adding teachers and adding students and assigning books.
All right, so I would like to share with you guys the experience from the sponsor's end of things. The sponsor is a teacher, could be a speech pathologist, could be an OT or an AT specialist, people who work with the student population that would be using this resource. So I hope everyone can see my screen here. The first thing you'll do as a sponsor here is to log in. So if I'm not already logged in, you just click on login. And there's your home page here. If you ever get lost anywhere in the labyrinth of the website, just go over here to where it says My Bookshare and click on that, and it basically just brings you back to this page, which is your home screen. Now, in terms of adding other sponsors to your current organization, which is what would be happening the majority of the time rather than starting a new organizational account, if you know anyone in your school district who already has a Bookshare account, any teacher who does, then they're sponsors in your organization. And what they can do, or what you can do after you become a sponsor, is to click on sponsors. Currently, I'm the only one in this organization, but if I wanted to add another sponsor in the organization, I would click on this icon here, and then I would put in the first and last name. Those are the starred fields are required. And then you'd find the school district. There's probably just one. And then the school, you could have a list of several. Like in Boston Public Schools, we have basically every school in our district is listed under here. Then the title, if it's a teacher, speech pathologist, psychologist, email address, and the phone number. I generally recommend putting a main department phone number or the main school district phone number. You don't have to put in your personal phone number here. And so that would be the way to add a sponsor. What happens after you add the sponsor then is they would receive an email from Bookshare, and it has a link in there that they would follow, and then that allows them to create a password for their account. If for some reason that email gets sent to a spam folder or they don't receive it, then when they go to log in on the website, there's a place where it says forgot password. So they can just enter their email address that the sponsor account was set up with, and then click on forgot password, and it will prompt them to create a new password. In terms of adding a member account, creating a member account, which would be a student account, it's right above where the sponsors icon is. And then the same thing, you'd click on the plus symbol here to add a new member. You need to put in the first and last name, birth date, their current grade, and usually I recommend creating a username and password for the student. And to make things easier on yourself and the student, take note of what the username and password are that you create for that student, and you can choose whether or not they get added to your quick list, which would be specific to you as a sponsor. So if you had several students in a grade level as a reading specialist, and they're in different classrooms, you could have them all under your own quick list, and that way when you assign books, you can easily get to those students. You don't have to add the student to your quick list. It's just an option. Then the district and school, you can add those if you'd like also. And down here is the qualifying information for disability category. It's one of those three that Christine highlighted earlier, visual, disability, learning, or physical. And then here you could click on if they have an IEP or 504. However, it's not a requirement that they have an IEP or 504, but they are there for you to select. And then you'd save and then give the login information to the student, and then they can access their account. Now, in terms of resources, if you forget how to do either of those, when you go to sponsors here, you can click on this helpful box here. It'll send you to a video to show you how to add a sponsor, and the same thing goes for members. This is how to add a member. You can add several members at the same time, or you can add an individual membership to an existing organizational email or organizational account. And what that means is they would have the ability to search for and download books on their own, as well as a teacher assigning books to them. So you can see one of the students in this organization of mine that I created has an org plus individual account. So Jack Black here has the ability to download his own books, whereas the remaining three, they just have an organization account. With that said, there are 3 ways for sponsors to assign books to members, and I'll go through each of those for you now. The simplest thing is to assign just one book at a time. So if I wanted to just assign one book, I'll look for a book that seems to be popping up lately with some of the teachers I'm working with. My Apron. I can do a search right up there at the top of the screen, and it's this book right here is the one I'm looking for. Sometimes you'll see like dozens and dozens of different books in here with a similar name, so you can kind of refine your search by searching by title, author, ISBN number, and then here you can find the different authors. I find the authors section here to be useful to narrow down your search. Now, if I want to assign this book to a student, I'll just click on the assign here, and then I'll search for the student that I want to assign it to. And Amy is going to show you the experience from the member side of things, and she will be using Fred Flintstone's account. And because there's a checkbox already checked here, that means that book has already been assigned to that student. So I don't need to do this, but just for the sake of demonstration, I'll have it click there and click on assign. So then when she opens up her account, she'll see that book that I assigned to her. The second way that you can assign books to students is through a reading list. There are several pre-populated reading lists, and the way to access these reading lists that have been created, most of them by our Bookshare staff here, you click on the Browse button, and then inside of here you'll see a whole bunch of different collections. These are some popular ones up here, and then they have some just for kids, they have some teen collections, and then for teachers, they may want to assign particular books in a lexile collection or leveled readers. So for example, if I clicked on leveled readers here, I could find the Fountas and Pinnell books here, accelerated reader books, Scholastic guided reading, and then the lexile collections themselves, you can choose which lexile level you want to assign, or which lexile level you want to assign to a student. So this is, the entire collection has 34 books in it. So what I could do then is I could click on subscribe, which means that now I, as the sponsor, am subscribed to this, and I can subscribe one of my members to that list. So actually what it's showing me here is that Fred has already been assigned this collection, but if I wanted to add more members to that collection, I would choose them here and click on Add Selected Members. Then that student will have access to that entire collection within that reading list. So those are pre-populated lists. You can also create your own reading list. So from my reading list over here on the left-hand side, you'll see I have that Browse by Lexile 200 to 290L. That was the one that I just subscribed to. I also created my own reading list here. So the way I did that is I went up here to the plus where it says create new reading list. And then I could put in the name of something. In this case, I did magnets. And if I wanted to, I could put a description underneath that. You don't have to. And then generally I just leave it in the default, which is that it will share with everyone in your organization, or it would be available for anyone in your organization. And then you save it. And then from within your reading list, you can add books to it. So what I did is I did a search for magnets, and then you can go in here and look for any of the books that you'd like. You can search by author, grade level. There are different options for creating reading lists. So I could save and add more, or just save this one, and then it would just add one additional book to my reading list. All right, and finally, there's a way here that you can assign members. So up here you can see where it says assign members. There's just one person that's assigned. It's Fred. If I wanted to add more members to this reading list, I could click on add members and add them from in here. More than likely your organization is going to have a ton of members listed here, not just 3, unless you work in a small school or have a small organizational account. So I'd like to go ahead and turn this over to Amy, and she can show you what the experience is like for the student.
Great, Scott. Okay. So now the student is going to read the book. The teacher took approximately 2 minutes to locate the book and assign it to me. And I'm going to open up any web browser, preferably Chrome. Most schools are using Chromebooks now, so this is a very quick and easy way to give your students accessible books on the fly. So I'm going to go to bookshare.org, again, as we do with all of the navigation of our website. And in the top right corner, we will see the words log in. And using that username and password that my teacher has given me, I'm going to log in. I like, if the students have their own machines, I like to do a remember me and then add it to their bookmark bar so they never have to remember their password ever again. Because we know our students like to forget these things. So now I'm logged into Bookshare. And again, anytime you get lost, we always can get ourselves back to My Bookshare, but you can see that I'm on the My Bookshare page right here. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and I'm going to see 2 blue words. I've got assigned books, which I have 4 books that my teacher has assigned to me. I'm going to click on that list and see my books, okay? So I have The Guardians, Finding Winnie, Holes, and My Apron. I'm just going to pick one right now to read. I have choices though. So if I wanted to just read in what we call the Bookshare web reader, I'm going to click on Read Now, which is a blue rectangle in the right-hand side action window. If I wanted to download it to Word and have my immersive reader read it to me, I would click on these arrows underneath Read Now and choose Word and then download. That will it'll create a file which then I can upload into Word and have my immersive reader to it. If I was going to read it in an iPad using my iBooks, that would be EPUB and download. Now again, everything that we're talking about, and we will discuss this, but I'm going to scroll up. This Help Center, we're going to be talking about this a little later. Everything that we're talking about today, you will find step-by-step directions on how to do these things in our Help Center, Learning Center. So let me go back to the Guardians. Okay, so as you can see, I've already made some changes to my text. It's automatically changed it to Open Dyslexic, and it's a little larger, okay? And so now my chapter 1 is ready to go. I can see what I'm supposed to be reading. Now I'm going to turn on the speech.
Battle of the Nightmare King began on a moonlit night long ago.
Again, with the voices, when you click on settings, you can change the speech rate. So maybe you have a child who's can understand what's being read to them, but they need it at a little slower rate because maybe their processing speed isn't up to par. So you can actually make it a little slower, and you can change the voice. Now, I'm on a Mac, so I have lots of choices. Chromebooks have a couple nice US voices. And if you decide that the Chrome voice, the voices that are built into Chrome or your web browser are not working for the student, there's always those third-party extensions such as Read and Write for Google or Snap and Read from Don Johnston or CapD that have a much nicer and broader scope of voices that are a little easier for kids who might have difficulty with the standard Chrome voices. It's a nice way to give them a better reading experience. So just really quickly, I'm just going to talk about this little box right here. This is night mode. So again, our kids are on those machines all day now that we're doing online learning. And if they still want to read after a long day of being on the Chromebooks or being in front of a screen, this gives them that high contrast black with white text. This just gives alleviates some of the strain on their eyes. And this button right here will actually turn your full screen on. And the reason we have that there is because if you're using a small Chromebook and you're trying to change the settings and you can't click that save button, if you enlarge your screen to full screen, that will give you room to access that save button at the bottom of the screen. So it's just a real quick way to get you there. So now I've made some changes to the vision and the voices. And I'm going to go back and show you some other things, okay? So we are reading in an organizational account right now, which means I had to have a teacher or a special ed teacher, occupational therapist, whoever's my qualifying person who's giving me access to my books. They had to assign these books to me. If I'm a student, especially an older student who may be thinking about, transitioning to the high school or transitioning to college, or even the ones that are responsible enough to navigate this website on their own, you might want to have those discussions with the parents or the students on getting an individual membership. In the left-hand side of the screen, you will see Upgrade to an individual membership. This allows the student, with parent permission, to read anything from our library. So they're going to go to the sign-up page, and they're going to fill in all the information, especially the ones that have the red asterisk. If the student is under 18, we will have to have the parent guardian information because they need to give the student permission that they are allowed to access the full library. They're going to actually create their own login information. It will no longer be the username and password that your teacher set you up with. So it will be an email, a personal email. You will have to confirm the email and create your own password. I would highly recommend that if you do this as a parent, to please let your teachers know that you've created this so we can, the teachers can keep track of username and passwords because these things get lost so easily and it's not always easy to repair that. So just communicate with your parents if they do decide to do an individual membership on their own to communicate with you about that information. All right, I'm Fred. Fred is going back to my Bookshare. So in this blue rectangle, I'm going to see if there's any other ways to read Bookshare books. And that will take me to a reading tool wizard. I do have a smartphone. I'm going to see if I can use my Bookshare account on my smartphone. I have an Apple, so I'm going to click on iOS. And here's some apps that Bookshare recommends that will connect to my Bookshare library. Dolphin Easy Reader is relatively new. It is free. You're able to listen with text-to-speech audio, see the book text, display images. They have the dyslexic font. Voice Dream Reader is also a wonderful option to read your Bookshare books. Again, they're same thing, text-to-speech audio, changing font sizes, color backgrounds. This one does have a cost, but it typically does go on sale at least once a year. And then Captive Voice is free. There is a premium available. And again, same kind of tool, listen with text-to-speech audio, dyslexic font displays images. So I'm going to go back to my Bookshare. I'm going to take you to my Dolphin Easy Reader. Resume my screen. In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see an app called Easy Reader. That's my Dolphin Easy Reader. It is orange and it looks like it has a book on it. Now, this allows the teachers, anything that my teachers have assigned me will show up in my Bookshare library, and I can read it on my phone. So I'm going to open up my app. And in the top left corner, you see a pile of books. I'm going to click on my pile of books, and that's where I'm going to see my libraries. And I don't really worry about this other stuff because I'm really only worried about my Bookshare books. So I'm going to click on the word Bookshare under Manage Libraries. And I'm going to go to my history because that's going to show me what books that were just recently assigned to me. Okay? And we know that I was just reading The Guardians on my Chromebook, so I'm going to press The Guardians by William Joyce. I will have to download it, so I'm going to click on download. Takes a minute. Now the book is on my phone. So I did have to use the internet to download it, but now it's permanently on my phone until I decide to delete this. I'm going to open it up. Again, the first couple pages of any book you see is copyright information. So down in the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see some lines. It looks like that's my chapter navigation. I'm going to click on chapter 1. Okay. So this has very similar tools to the web reader, but a little more bells and whistles and nicer voices because it's on a tablet. So I'm going to press play, and I'm hoping you guys all can hear our book.
Chapter 1. Logo. In which the Great War is renewed. Capital T. Key Battle of the Nightmare King began on a moonlit night long ago. In the quiet town of Tanglewood, a small boy and his smaller sister woke with a start.
Okay, so I have a nice woman's voice because I usually have my mom read to me at night. But again, I can make some changes to those things if I'd like. So in the top icon bar, we have our library, we have a search bar, we have a bookmark, which is a nice feature for tablets because you can actually navigate by bookmarks and know that that's the last place you left off. I'm going to press the capital A, and that's going to allow me to change the text size. I need it to be just a tiny bit bigger. And I also want the line spacing to be a little wider because my eyes are getting tired of tracking. So you don't have to press save with this one. Once you make the changes, you can change text color, background color, sentence highlight color, and word highlight color. So again, that can be as per the student preference, or if you have a student who does better when they read on a color background, you can make sure that they need that green, rose, yellow, or blue colored background. So I'm going to click the back button in the top left corner. I'm going to make it a little larger because that's there we go. Now you can see. So I've made it a little larger and I've increased the line spacing so the words right on top of each other. I can continue reading like this, or I can click the speaker button next to the giant A and change my voice. Now, as you can see, we have a lot of different languages. You'd probably want to stick, if we're in the United States, with someone that reads in English. But I will say that some of my students really like hearing a book written by an Australian man or a woman from the UK. But we do have United States, and I'm just going to stick with Nikki for now because I like her voice. but you can also, I'm sorry, I did want to say you can slow it down. So I'm going back into the audio settings, and I'm going to click on the word voice settings. And this is where you can change the rate, the pitch, the volume, and how often it's pausing between words. And again, you can make those changes, press the play button to test it out, and then go back and read your book.
Like most children, and some adults at one time or another, they were afraid of the dark.
So as you can see, the voices are really high quality. You're able to bookmark on the tablet, and this is something that is free for all Android and iOS tablets. And I think all I wanted to say for now, thank you so much, and I'm going to pass it back off to Christine.
Great, thank you. And we're going to just quickly wrap up here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and show that Learning at Home resources page. Thank you, Amy and Scott, for some great demonstrations. We've had a ton of questions come in. I've been trying, as has Laura, to try to answer a lot of these. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so I am going to go back to my Bookshare, the Bookshare main website. And then here is the Learning from Home resources page that we're compiling. We're updating it with a lot of great information. So we've got some information for parents, for educators here. And then I also want to point you to this section here, Find More Books. This is more free and paid books. And as I mentioned at the beginning, Bookshare has 10,000 freely available or public domain books that can be available to anyone, including people who don't qualify for Bookshare. They don't even have to sign up for Bookshare or have an account or log in to read them. They'll be able to access them with just going to the Bookshare website. And then one of our team members kindly made some lists that are vetted, fully vetted books that we know work well and read well. So one is called Free Books for All. It has 208 fiction and nonfiction titles of varying grade levels. One is a free upskilling books for all. I mentioned this earlier, how-to books. And then one is free children's books for all that has 43 titles. So these books are available to anyone, so not just people who qualify for Bookshare. And then a lot of our partners and other content providers in the industry right now are making content available for free or offering deals and things. So we've tried to do the best we can in representing those options here. There's a lot of great options for reading and a lot of content choices here. So we call these to your attention, especially for kids who don't qualify for Bookshare, but even kids who qualify for Bookshare would want to take advantage of some of these resources as well. And I just wanted to highlight a couple questions that came in. One question was about qualifications, particularly regarding students with students who maybe don't have an IEP or a 504. And I just want to go back to that slide with the qualifications. And because of the fact that it's written, the qualifications are written in copyright law, not education law, you'll notice that there actually is no specific language here about someone needing to have an IEP or be served under 504. So technically neither plan is required, though we do find that most students who qualify for Bookshare are served under one of those two plans. But we do know there are kids, for example, let's say in Tier 2 of RTI or MTSS, who are already showing signs that they have some kind of a processing issue or some kind of a comprehension issue with printed text specifically, and that they've shown that they actually can read more effectively when they're listening to audio and following along with the text. Those are good indicators that that student likely does have a qualifying condition. So that decision, again, is really up to you as an individual. We just basically show you what the law says and ask that you please make your best determination for each student. We do take this very seriously because about 700, or I think it maybe is up to 800 now, publishers give us their content, and they give us that content because they know that we work hard at following the copyright law. So that's an important relationship to us, and we want to make sure that they feel confident that we are protecting the protecting their collection and only distributing it to people who qualify. So please read the criteria and make your best determination for each student. Let's see. I'll see if there's any other questions I should address. I know we're over time. Appreciate everyone's patience. We'll just stay on here and address one or two more questions as needed. Okay, so let's see. Okay, there's a whole bunch of questions. So I'll tell you what we're going to do for the sake of time is we'll go ahead and send out afterward a summary of the questions and the answers. And we actually did this webinar last Friday or last Thursday, and we have a Q&A from that ready to get out as well. So we'll send you both so that you'll have answers to all the questions that are typically asked and were asked in the webinar here. And we'll be getting a link to the recording and the slides, as I mentioned. And I think, let me just go ahead and go back to my slides here. For schools, we encourage you to create organizational accounts if you haven't already done that. Add your qualified students, assign books, either using the one at a time, the assign feature that Scott covered, or through reading lists, which you can either create your own reading list or subscribe to and share some of the ready-made reading lists that Bookshare has put together. We have hundreds of lists of great books. Show students how to log in and read, and show parents how to upgrade their students to an individual membership. Those are all things we covered today. Parents can ask the school to add their student to an organizational account and then upgrade them to a full individual membership, or you can sign up separately, as I mentioned before. And then there are a lot of really great resources available to you, in particular the Help Center. Click on Help Center and then on Learning Center on the Bookshare website. There is a whole page of videos and how-to guides, and if you also will see in the Learning Center an Educators Get Started guide that has screenshots and can walk you through how to get started with Bookshare, how to add members, how to assign books, how students read. And then you can also post questions for the Bookshare community, or call us or email us with your questions, and connect with us on social media as well. And lastly, I'll put up our email addresses. Scott and Amy both do a little bit of work for Bookshare, so I have just listed their Benetech email addresses here. Benetech is the parent company of Bookshare, just to make it easier to connect with all three of us. So I've put their email addresses here. Feel free to reach out with any questions that you have, and we will be happy to get back to you. And we're just glad you're here today. Just as we finish out here, let me just say that we are very thankful that you all could be with us today, and we wish you the very best, and please let us know how we can be helpful, and best of luck as you navigate these uncharted waters over the next few months, and let us know how we can help, and thanks again for joining us today.